Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. Today is a total treat for me because not only am I bringing an expert onto the podcast, but it's a woman that I know personally who has helped me in my own postpartum journey with all three of my kiddos. This woman is not just a super mom, but a super grandma who has an incredible perspective on supporting moms during postpartum. So, Penny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jordan.
Of course. So Penny Gilchrist is local to the Atlanta area. So if you're in the Atlanta area, you probably have heard of Penny the Doula. But I think a really important part or important place to start today is defining what is a postpartum doula. And then from there, I'd love for you to share what inspired you to even do this work in the first place.
A postpartum doula offers support to the new mom, partner, whatever. Teaches about the baby, helps the mom do things around her house, how to get organized, how to walk into this new chapter of her life. And what I always call it is, it's your new job, which it is. And I always say, think about being at your job for 5 years and you decide to make the change and you walk into your new job Monday morning and you're like, oh no, what have I done? And why did I do this? But by Friday, things start falling into place. So I'm there to help you start being able to put things in their place.
And it really is so true. One of the most common things you hear from new parents is there's no playbook, which is true. And that doesn't mean that you have to walk through this season of life completely by yourself, which I think is where adding a resource like a postpartum doula can be so helpful, especially in those early days where there's overwhelm, there's emotion, there's exhaustion, kind of
all the feels.
All the feels. So Penny, you've seen it all.
Correct.
You've seen all different walks of moms, of families. What made you want to do this?
Well, I was in corporate medical America for years. And when insurance started changing over and started becoming terrible as far as being able to deal with it, I decided I'm out of here. So I thought, I'm going to stay home for a while. Well, that lasted 3 months. I'm not good at staying at home. So I decided I'm only going to work for myself and do what I love. What do I love? Well, I have this passion for newborns. Not necessarily toddlers, but newborns. And I love it. So love them rather. So I looked it up. And of course, I was spelling doula wrong. I was spelling it like Beulah instead of D-O-U. And back then, we didn't have spell check and we didn't have much of the internet. So I was spinning my wheels like, what is this profession? My sister-in-law in San Diego found it, of course, California. And I started investigating and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I want to do. So I put a little flyer up on our little church bulletin board and my phone started ringing off the hook. And this was January will be 26 years.
Wow.
And it's all been word of mouth, doctor referrals who I've known from working in medical America. And that's how I started. And then I started hearing all the moms' birth stories. And I'm like, maybe I can make a difference here. So I took classes to become a labor doula. And I was a labor doula and postpartum for 14 years. Now I just do postpartum. I retired from labor about 9 years ago.
Penny, have you had to guess how many moms have you helped in your 26 years?
Oh gosh, I have no clue, but I would imagine a couple of thousand.
Yeah, it's
because
really incredible.
I did the math one time, figuring maybe 4 a month, but could be less, could be more, times 26, and
Plus, I know there are moms with twins or triplets that are definitely calling you as quickly as they can once they find out that they're having multiples. So Penny, one of the things that we've bonded over really since I've known you is just the sense of overwhelm that moms feel. It's a lot to have a baby. And I think in some ways it's harder in some aspects to have a baby today than it was 20 years ago. And that's not because there's not enough things and resource, but because there's almost too much. And so
Totally.
I'd love for you to just share a little bit more about your perspective of like what you see in moms today and what they're struggling with.
I see in moms today that Instagram, so to speak, is the devil because it makes them not trust their own heart and gut. Nobody knows this baby better than the mom. And once they start looking at everybody and all the influencers and what they're doing and try this and try that and buy this and buy that, they go down a major rabbit hole and don't trust. And I think it's a real problem, a real problem. There is too much information out there that moms pick up on. And some is good, some is okay, some is horrible. And I think it's really not a great thing right now.
Comparison creep is such a challenge for moms on Instagram, on TikTok. You know, you're comparing the things that you have. You're comparing how your baby's sleeping. You're comparing, do I have the right products? And it never really ends. Like, and you're constantly being told, you must have this product. You must use this program. And it becomes so much where people just then, I feel like they kind of just either give up or they give in to all the things. And now it's an unnecessary amount of purchases. And you're almost like trying too many things at once. Like, do you
Totally.
find that where they're trying to take on so much advice that like you're not actually getting to the root of, let's say, for example, baby sleep. You can't try 10 things at the same time and think you're going to figure out why your baby may or not be sleeping. Does that ring true to you?
Oh, yes. So what I always say to my clients, babies, which people forget, they say, oh, baby, 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 but babies are human beings. They're little, but they're human beings. And like you, Jordan, me, there are no two humans alike. Twins are not alike. Siblings are not alike. So therefore, your baby is not a textbook and it's not a robot. So you have to treat the baby with respect, number one, and just know this baby is its very own human being. And stop with all the books and stop with all the Instagram because there are no two alike.
You know, the other thing that comes to mind when I talk to you is I remember, and I think she listens to this podcast, so I need to be careful. I remember with my first, there was a sense of, well, can't you just use your mom? You know, your mom had you, she had other children. And I think one of the things that I learned when I had a postpartum doula, when I was using you, especially the first time, was that it felt so good to have someone super educated on not just having babies, right? All moms have had babies, but really like up to speed on all the things that all the advances, frankly, that we have made in terms of educating ourselves on what helps babies sleep better, or what might be gas, or what might be colic. So for the moms that are listening that are afraid of maybe offending their moms or their mother-in-laws, how do you frame that to a new mom?
I get that question all the time. Well, I feel really bad. I want to have you, but I know my mom wants to help. And I don't know if she'll be offended, let's say, because you're there. And I have a perfect solution to that. Tell your mom that she can join us in the session or sessions so everybody can be on the same page, because otherwise you're going to get confused as the mom and the baby's going to get really confused. So I say, give your mom tasks that will really help you besides listening to us. Grocery shop, do laundry, make your dinners. I mean, that is so incredibly helpful if you want your mom to be a part of this journey.
And I think that when utilized the right way, your mom or your mother-in-law, really it's equipping them with the way that you're kind of like aligning everyone together. We're one team. And a lot of times when you have a baby, you know, maybe it's a more old school versus new school, and there's kind of this like underpinning of conflict, but that doesn't need to be the case. I find that most grandmas, they want to be on the same page with their daughter or with their daughter-in-law. They want to be helpful. And you're like having a postpartum doula is almost a bridge for them to be more involved in a way that isn't creating that disconnect because everyone is following like the same book. They're following the same curriculum.
Correct. And some moms are really, wanting to do that and wanting to be on the same page. And then we have other moms that, well, we did it this way and we did it that way and it was just fine. I don't know why this new stuff is so important. So you just have to kind of deal as you go.
Yeah, one step at a time. Penny, in terms of support for moms, you've seen this a million times. People love to rush to the home after someone has had a baby. I always joke that what are you guaranteed to have when you have a baby? A onesie and unsolicited advice.
Totally. Unsolicited advice for sure.
And at the same time, it's baby, 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 right? Everyone wants to hold the baby. Everyone wants to know how the baby's doing. And part of that enthusiasm sometimes can create some isolation or some loneliness for the mom.
Correct.
What do you kind of how do you talk to moms about that? How do you advise moms that are feeling that way, that are feeling a little bit of that neglect?
Well, probably most of moms are feeling that way. I mean, think about it. They've carried this baby for 9 months, 10 months, and everything was about them. The showers were about them. Everything. They looked beautiful, yada, yada, yada. And then they worked really hard, typically, to get this baby out, to birth this little human. And then all of a sudden, it's all about the baby and no more about the mom. Probably, friends will call and say, well, how was your night? How's he doing? Well, try this and try that. And it's just not about the mom anymore. Like, ask the mom, how are you feeling? Tell me. Let's talk about it. I've been there. I understand.
And I found like the friends that helped me the most were the ones that said, it's okay if it feels really hard, or it's okay if you're not enjoying it right now. I think that's the other kind of pressure that moms feel. You feel this pressure through social media or maybe even through friends of your own that do kind of automatically fall in love and motherhood just clicks and it feels right. But not all moms feel that.
No, and you're dealing with a major drop in hormones, which will knock your socks off for the first 2-3 weeks. And then you're dealing with isolation. You're dealing with you hate the way you look. It's a lot. And you're dealing with trying to fit your partner into this whole new threesome, foursome, whatever, addition to your family. It's hard. It's a lot on the mom. It's a lot, which people don't understand. They want to drop off meals and they want to come and sit and eat with you. Well, that's just fine and dandy. Some people like that, but others, I always say, put a cooler outside of your front door and just say you're taking a nap. Please just drop the meal.
How do you advise and how do you work with the dads or the other partner? Because again, like a lot of focus on the baby, and then certainly on the mom, especially if they're breastfeeding. But even if they're not, where does the dad or again the other caregiver kind of fit into how a doula can help?
Most of the times, the dads are thrilled because the majority are clueless. They haven't been around newborns unless, of course, they have several younger siblings. But changing diaper, I've walked into homes and the diaper is halfway off. I walked into a home 2 weeks ago and the diaper was down by the knees. I'm like, we got to change this up a little bit. So it's support for the dad too. And then he's worried about his wife and he's worried again where he fits into this new world. So it's support for the dad as much as the mom.
I think dads, sometimes they get the short end of the stick when we talk about these things, but I believe that we are in a new generation of dads in the best way, in the sense that dads want to be more involved. They are playing a more active and participating role in not just raising children, but being involved with the nighttime, sleep stuff and feeding, and it's so wonderful. And we can't blame dads for not having this natural instinct of what to do because they weren't genetically blessed with the hormones to do this. And so
Exactly.
having a doula can be so helpful. And again, bridging that gap between husbands and wives, that naturally there's just friction at the beginning because, to your point about hormones dropping, everyone's out of whack.
Right. And the dad, I find the mom's hormonal, so she's got that going on. And the dad feels a little bit of jealousy. I mean, he's had this woman to himself for as long as they've been together. And then this baby comes into play, and the dad sort of takes a back seat to all the attention he got from his wife.
And I think for dads too, even as I've talked to friends and talked to my own husband about this, it's just wildly different. No one can prepare you. You come home with the baby and it's like, oh, this is forever. I read once that dads typically, when they think about having kids, they dream of the stage of life between, call it 6 to 10, where maybe you're dropping them off at a baseball practice, or you're taking them on a trip, or you're doing kind of like the fun stuff. Dads don't typically think about having kids in the newborn infant stage. Much like moms, when they think of babies, they think of holding that precious, warm body across their chest. So again, it's just mismatch expectations and understanding of like what this new reality really is, because it is just so different than the life that you had before you enter the hospital.
It's nice now that dads get paternity leave. I mean, that's relatively new, and it's awesome. Some dads get a month or months. It's good and bad. I mean, probably by the end of the first month, the mom said, "Okay, I got this. I'm ready to be on my own."
The world has caught up with the expectations that parenting is a joint process, and trying to nurture this baby should be both on the mom and the dad, even though the mom will naturally just have more things to do. That is just the reality. And there is something to say for, okay, now that I have things under control, maybe my baby is sleeping a little bit longer stretches at night where I don't feel as overwhelmed during the daytime, wanting to like have that time, because it's so fleeting.
The other thing I find, and as you know, Jordan, I lead the group Circle Moms here in Atlanta. Well, we have one session that's postpartum emotions, and a lot comes up that moms are very controlling and want things done their way. And then it really upsets the dad because he wants to do it, but he's always walking on eggshells, thinking he's not doing it the right way because the mom jumps on him, do it this way.
And what do you advise to moms that are feeling that way? How do you work through that?
You have to work on relinquishing. It's his baby or partner's baby as well. There's no mistake that can't be fixed. I mean, you have a diaper at their knee, so you pull it up next time. You have to give them a chance.
Yeah.
But I think women on a whole are more controlling.
Right.
About how they want things done.
So you talked about Circle Moms, which I think is really an important call out. There are postpartum support groups that moms can find themselves. What's the importance in your mind of moms getting out of the house in those early days and finding other moms that they can connect with?
Absolutely. So what I have found, what moms say is they look forward to the one time a week where they get out and are around other moms. They probably never have met them before, but everybody is in the same predicament. And what I found is so great. I mean, I've been leading Circle Moms for 2.5 years. Those first circles, they're still really good friends. They go to birthday parties. So they've connected. There's a real connection there. After the circle, they'll go for walks, lunch, what have you. So it's support with other people, like I said, you don't necessarily know, but are going through the same thing.
Right. And it's almost like a forcing function. I think what happens so often is in those early days, you don't really want to leave, but you should, and you just you're in your head. And so when you've made a commitment to a certain, outing, it really forces you to get dressed, to get the baby dressed
Right.
and get going.
There have been some really rainy, stormy days that we've had a circle. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, I bet no one's going to come today. And sure enough, they all show up, which is wonderful. I don't know that I would have done that in my day.
Right. Well, and I think what you said is so important. It's they look forward to it because it's a chance to be honest about how everyone's doing. And so you are able now to facilitate a conversation where maybe people are admitting my baby isn't sleeping the way I thought they would, or I'm still really disappointed in how I'm feeling in my body and things like that, where it's harder to connect with other moms that are in a later stage with their children.
Or even in the same semi stage, because then you're afraid, okay, if I open up, I guess maybe the whole world might know. And I don't want that. There are moms that are very private. And this way, they're in a small group of the same moms that they don't know, actually. So it's easier to open up and be honest.
Isn't it funny how we're more honest with complete strangers than we are with?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's so funny to me, and it's true. Moms will open up, we'll talk about anything. We'll talk about our menstrual cycles, our
Oh,
our
yeah.
kids' sleep, which are our best friends. We sometimes put that guard up.
We do, because we don't want to be talked about or compared. Compared is a good word. We don't want to be compared. And we don't want unsolicited advice from someone who really doesn't know much.
To bring this back to the beginning of the conversation, so much about what I believe in and having a postpartum doula is, again, kind of reducing that noise. Part of what you do for your moms and for the parents is, help align on a sleep and a feeding schedule, right? You help kind of lay like a blueprint out. Can you talk about the importance of having a plan and, in a time that feels so unpredictable, like where you find that there is an opportunity for parents to say, here's how we're going to approach today, that gives parents a sense of really like structure or a sense of control. And again, in a time that is largely not really in our control in the way that we're used to.
Yes, I should say, I shouldn't say very, but I'm schedule oriented. I like to know personally how my day is going to look, let's say. And I find that parents now want to know the same thing. Now I say, this is your schedule. However, it is with flexibility. Do not be married to watching a clock. If your baby eats 30 minutes later, if your baby eats 30 minutes earlier, it's okay. You've got to be flexible, but sort of know how your day is going to look.
Looking ahead at what outings might be necessary, whether that's a doctor's appointment or maybe it's just catching up with girlfriends, there's a way to approach that day without the panic of thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to throw off the schedule completely.
Sure, feed 30 minutes early and go, or feed while you're there if you feel comfortable, or if you happen to be breastfeeding, pump right before you go and take a bottle. There's lots of options to be flexible, but yet know how your day is going to look. And a shower. I mean, moms don't take showers because they think that, they don't have time, but you do have time. Fit it into your goal. I call it a goal schedule.
As we wrap up, one of the other things I want to kind of press on is the importance of community. I know we've talked about this privately before, but I have really studied just how we as humans used to live. We used to live in tribes. We used to live in villages where you really raised children alongside of your neighbors or literally in the same home,
Families, yeah.
families, like multi-generational families, siblings. And of course, nowadays that looks very different. We live in a world where we are very divided and just even like the urban planning, you could live in a subdivision in a cul-de-sac many, many miles from friends that are having babies around the same days and times. And that physical divide has really changed the way that we can support one another. So I'd love for you to share, your perspective on the importance of community and the importance of still being there physically, or whether that's through text message, so that moms can avoid that feeling of isolation.
Absolutely. So you have to put yourself out to invite the support. It's not only other people wanting to come, but you have to be emotionally ready, like I said, to invite the support because it's there. But you also have to have boundaries about the support because, I mean, I've been in homes where, yeah, the parents are, around the corner or whatever, and they just barge in, like, or let's say the mother-in-law. This is just an example. The new mom doesn't get along with her mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law will just barge in. Oh, my baby, my baby. Well, there's an issue. So you have to set boundaries, but yet invite.
Penny, thank you so much for being here today. I know that there are so many people that will be interested in learning more about you and about the services you offer. So where can people find you?
Sure. So Instagram, Doula Penny, Facebook, Doula Penny, or my website, two as in the number two, not spelled, twoheartsdoula.com. And I would love for anyone to reach out to me. I would love to help.
Awesome. And I've been to Penny's website. Not only is there a place to submit information in case you want to utilize her services, particularly if you're in the Atlanta metropolitan area, but also additional resources as it just relates to all things postpartum. So I know there will be lots and lots of people that can find value. And just as a parting note here today, as a reminder, at Support Now, we love serving families that are going through the process of, maybe you have a baby and everything's great. Maybe you have a baby that's in the NICU. Or, perhaps it's a situation where you want to support a friend that's having a baby, or, maybe having struggles kind of getting everything together, whether that's around their house or just food. Support Now is a really incredible resource to bring together not just fundraising, but meals and volunteers, updates, so that we can better show up for the people we love when they're going through major life moments. www.supportnow.org.
I think people don't realize how important support is to a postpartum mom. It's very important. They go through a lot during that time, and not a lot is spoken about. So we're trying to really support these moms.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Penny. Well, thank you so much, Penny. I look forward to many more conversations together, and I look forward to many moms finding more about not just you as a doula, but doulas in general, as an extension of their kind of support bench through this phase of life.
Thank you, Jordan.